So we open up this discussion with who's going to be next? What is going to be the next combiner team that we could expect? We have our rumors, we have our listings, we have explanations of potentially what is going to be the future, but what is going to be happening with our generations, with our studio series, and even with the implication that Masterpiece MP is going to become just Masterpiece G, MPG, with the Masterpiece Gattai giant gestalts. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to make sense of it. And more importantly, we're going to just open it up to discussion of what we feel should be the next combiner outside of what we already know. So in the past 3 years, let's say 2021 and going forward, we've had Menasor with the Stunticons through Legacy. We had Volcanicus with the core class and the Dinobots with Legacy Evolution. Not to mention, if you even want to go a little more back, we had that Fossilizer Combiner, which was, we'll call them loose combiners because they're not official in a lot of ways, but the Fossilizer Combiner with Kingdom, the Junkosaurus with Legacy Evolution. And then, looking forward in what's going to be potentially coming due to listings and stuff we saw online, the rumored Dino King from the Volcanicus, the potential of a Monstructor afterwards from that Dino King, the Generations Prime line, and supposedly we're getting Superion in the Aerial Bots, and Studio Series 2025 having Devastator and the Constructicons through listings we've seen. So we have a pretty good idea of what potentially is going to be coming, but what would you like to see outside of that? Who is missing that you feel should be the next one in a lot of ways? And I'm very curious to see what the comments and the rationale will be with the comments for this podcast segment. But when you really think about who is missing up to this point, if we just stick to let's say Generation 1 proper, because, you got Bruticus, you got Defensor, Abominus, Computron, the Piranacons, you got Raiden, you got Monstructor. When you get into even stuff like the Japanese G1 stuff from the later half of the 80s, like Transformers Victory with Road Caesar, Lio Kaiser, and Landcross, and even Neo G1 stuff, you want to go even more further with, Victorion and Skyrain. Who should be next? Who should be next? Who would be the next smart choice? Before we dive even into, you go really down the rabbit hole. It's where's my Magna Boss? Where's all this? But, there's, especially when it comes to me, and I don't want to make it personal, but there's the personal choice, and then there's the smart business choice. And I've always leaned more on the smart business choice over the personal choice, because I've always felt a lot of the things that I like are usually bad business decisions. So I always have to let that business side of me come up with an answer instead. And because, when you look at the personal choice, I'd love to see Road Caesar from Victory just get an update, but that probably wouldn't be the right choice. And if you asked me of those core G1 combiners, 84, 85, 86, and a little bit of 87, also counting Predaking that I left out there too, who just recently had, not too long ago, had a Titan class, but it's something where, who would be the choice? Out of those, the personal choice would have been Defensor, but the business choice would have to be Bruticus. And not to mention the way I see it where, we got Menasor, which is a Decepticon, then Volcanicus, we got Autobot, and then we got, not counting Dino King and everything like that, because that's rumored to be a San Diego repaint. But, with Generations Prime, back to Autobots again with Superion, but then we're going to get Devastator with Studio Series, that's Decepticons. So, going that back and forth with those guys, and I think that Bruticus would probably be the best choice for a lot of different reasons. The first one being is the repaint potential itself. When we're talking Bruticus, straight off the bat, you got G2 Bruticus, you got core Bruticus, normal colors, G2 Bruticus colors, Operation Combination Battle Gaia colors, and then you got the RID Ruination Car Robots Baldigus colors. So right away, out of that one combiner team, you got 3 different repaints that you could run with. So there's already that going on. So that's 4 different releases just from that. But then you have those 5 individual molds. And the thing that I like about Bruticus, and Defensor gets this too, but Bruticus also is that you get a lot of variety with those molds that could be turned into individual products on themselves. Bruticus is a space shuttle, a jeep, a tank, a helicopter, a big mobile cannon. And each one of those individual pieces could be repainted and or retooled into individual characters that could be divorced from the Bruticus thing. Hasbro and Takara, we got to see through Combiner Wars how they just milked individual limbs and pieces to make characters and stuff. And Bruticus and the Combaticons were a great example of that. That one set of 5 characters birthed thousands and thousands and thousands of ideas from Combiner Wars. And those repaints and retools still reverberate to this day. And it's something where, you look at Bruticus and you got a space shuttle. There's so much you could do with that, not to mention from a retooling perspective that we don't see. People tend to forget like how something like Onslaught was used for so many different characters that weren't just Onslaught as a tooling. I mean, one piece of that is Victorion in a lot of ways. So there's a lot to be said with that, but I really feel that Bruticus, business-wise, should be the next one that should come after, of course, we get our aerial bots through Generations Prime and our Studio Series Constructicons. I think Bruticus should be the next one. It's not the one I would personally want. I just think it's the one that if you did it next, the long-term use of those tooling and the molds and the character can make a lot of money in the long run. Where as much as I would love, like, let's say, Magnaboss or, like I said, Road Caesar from Transformers Victory, there's not as much that you could do with that afterwards. You pretty much hit a wall in a lot of ways with those characters. So that's the way I see it. What would you like to see, though? That's the thing I'm more curious, because I always like to hear what the fans' rationale would be of what should be next. A lot of times when I pose this question, it always leans more on the personal. It's just what they would want, divorced from the fact of what would actually be good for business. And too many times it's always, I want this. Okay, we made it for you. And now we're screwed because your idea, doesn't work for the business side of it. And that's why I'm curious, what would be your personal choice, and then what would be your business choice? Like, what would be the one that would make sense for you? I always felt that Defensor is another one too, because you could at least get G2 colors. Maybe you could get also Guard City colors. There's a little going on there too. There's some diversity of alt modes, at least. But it's something where who would you like to see as the personal choice of your dream combiner next that could be done through a Generations kind of line? And who would you like to see be done as a business choice, something that makes sense in the long term for business? And I know we're going to probably see it because between Studio Series being a platform, between the Generations line, whatever it'll be called in 2026, 2027, being a platform, and now MPG really kind of becoming a standard thing now, it's 3 different places that we could see combiners pop up. And dare I say, if they start making core class combiners a regular thing after the Dinobots, who knows what we're going to see. But let me know what you think, and we'll talk again really soon here on the Transformers Slag podcast. And as always, thank you for listening.